One really useful skill to have is to be able to interact directly with services. And one reason for that is you want to be able to pull back the banners that applications provide. Banners will give you information about the specific application that is running on a specific service port, and it may actually give you version information. So there's a couple of ways we're going to take a look at how to do banner grabbing. The first one is to use the Telnet client. Now, you may have heard how bad and evil Telnet is because it's unencrypted. What people are talking about when they say that is the Telnet server. The Telnet client is really just a program that opens a TCP connection to a port, and if you don't specify one, it assumes port 23, which is the Telnet port. Now, I can specify a port and override that, and then what I've got is a TCP connection to whatever port I choose. In this case, I am choosing port 21. Now, I have connected to an FTP port, and I could interact with this directly, but what I get out of this is the message that the FTP server has provided. And what that tells me is it's running pure FTPD. Now I could do some investigation on pure FTPD and see whether there are vulnerabilities. If I were to think of this from an adversary or attacker perspective, I'm interested in knowing that you are running pure FTPD on your FTP server. If I type control right square bracket, it drops me back to a telnet prompt, and from here I can just type quit. The other program I want to take a look at here is called Netcat. Netcat gives me the ability to do the same thing, but it also has many other capabilities. Netcat is called basically a Swiss Army knife, and I can use Netcat to open up a TCP connection. And again, I'm connected to the FTP server. I use the same port on the same host, and so I'm really getting the same banner back, so there's nothing surprising there. Netcat also gives me the ability to use UDP where Telnet only does TCP. So if you had a UDP server that you wanted to communicate with, you could say -u and it would use UDP as the transport protocol rather than TCP. Netcat also gives us the ability to do listeners, so I could set up a listener using Netcat, and it really just becomes a sync. So any connection coming into this host here that I am setting up this listener on just dumps out to the console. So Netcat just doesn't care what is sent to it, it just prints it out for me. So I could create a listener that just acquires information from whoever wanted to connect to it. So Netcat is another great utility to know about. As I said earlier, Telnet is a good option if you've got a TCP host and you just want to open up a raw TCP socket to a port on a system somewhere. So the Telnet client's good for that. Netcat's also good for that, but you can also use Netcat for UDP and also if you want to do listener sockets.